Welcome,
Hey
welcome,
there.
welcome. Josh, take it away, brother.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. If you are new to this platform, new to CalExit, welcome. And really, we want to say welcome. And we're so glad and thankful that you've chosen to join us tonight. Maybe you have heard of CalExit, maybe you haven't, maybe you found us on Mobilize. If you are a chatter, if you want to get into the chat over there in YouTube, we will be also fielding some questions throughout. We'll be probably answering those at the end. So as you have questions, put them in the chat, and we will collect those and circle back at the end. And we want to make sure that everyone there's no crazy, illegitimate, wrong, no bad questions. No, and we just want you to know that you can be here and ask us anything tonight with CalExit. So with that, I want to introduce the CalExit founder, Marcus Ruiz Evans. Marcus.
Thanks, Josh. We're getting a feedback on you, Josh.
Sorry. All right.
So, hi, I'm Marcus Ruiz Evans. Let me pull up my banner. Oh, now it's doing it with me. Okay. Well, we're here. We're live. We're going to keep going. So, I'm Marcus Ruiz Evans. I started the CalExit movement I apologize for the reverb. I'm not sure why that's happening. I'm hoping it's going to work itself out. Anyways.
Marcus, I don't think we're hearing it on. I'm not hearing it on my end. It may just. Have you got two devices maybe going?
Okay, that was the problem. Sorry.
No worries.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. We're here. We're going to walk you through the lobbying plan. Josh has put this all together, and we have a great plan for all of you. We're going to introduce you here in just a minute to J.J. Ames. This is the key part of why we have a plan for success that can happen almost instantly. J.J. Ames has worked for 40 years in Washington, D.C. He teaches American federal government at the university level. He's ran 74 campaigns in 9 different states. He's also a professor of political science, former FEMA head speechwriter, and former head speechwriter for the U.S. Minority Business Development Agency. And he's met many of the political luminaries you've heard of. He's met Biden and Trump personally. Now, I'm going to introduce you to JJ in a second. What you need to know is that the climate right now is the best it's ever been for CalExit. We're going to talk to you about a plan that we have to achieve CalExit in 3 to 5 months. That's right, 3 to 5 months. Now, I got a question today, and it said, are we still doing the ballot initiative? Absolutely. We're still doing the CalExit initiative. But I'm going to quickly explain to you what's happened in the last 3 months. We've been doing the ballot initiative for a decade. And the idea was you collect 600,000 signatures, and then it goes up for a vote, et cetera, et cetera. We had always assumed that we couldn't get any politician in Sacramento to back it. That's why we went with the initiative. And we thought we'd get enough signatures, and then after the initiative passed, politicians would sign on to it. In the last 3 months, that understanding has blown apart. We now believe that we can approach politicians in Sacramento directly, and that we can ask them to pass what's called a resolution. Resolution takes 1 month to pass. What will the resolution say? That the California government thinks it's a good idea to have an official investigation into California sovereignty. That will become global news. The moment the world's 4th largest economy, the official California government, passes a resolution saying they think investigating sovereignty is a good idea, global news. That will compel the governor to call for the special investigation in earnest within 1 month. The governor can call for a special investigation within 1 month. So we're talking about within 2 months, we're having the investigation going, and we're having global news, and everybody's talking about independence. Compare that to the initiative structure. We have to collect signatures, then it would be an additional 6 months to process it, and then there would be a vote about 8 months after that. So with the initiative process, it was a 17-month project. Whereas now with the resolution process, we're talking about moving California to independence and being free of all the terror within 3 to 5 months. We want to get you to help us lobby. We've already made contact with some major politicians and their policy directors. That's all I can tell you at this moment. And I also want to point out what you're going to hear about how to lobby is super easy and fun. Rick C. and Katie T.T. are two people who found out about this a month ago, and they've already done all the lobbying we could ask. So it's easy to do. People can do it. I'm going to turn it over now to JJ. You're going to hear why JJ is a political expert, why he is going to explain to you this is the best time to CalExit. And he's also going to explain to you how we basically, as Josh says, have everything dialed in, laser focused, better than anyone anywhere. JJ Ames.
Thanks, Marcus. For those of you who have not been here before, well, I just want to go through real quickly. Common question is, isn't it unconstitutional to separate from the United States? And the answer is contained in the Supreme Court opinion in a case called Texas versus White, which happened in 1868. And in Texas versus White, Supreme Court said, yes, it is unconstitutional for a state to unilaterally separate itself. Can't do that. But the court went on to say that separation by mutual agreement and by consent of the states is permissible. And what they mean by consent of the states, at least in the opinion of some of the nation's greatest and most recognized constitutional experts, is that we would be required, California would be required to receive the consent of a simple majority of state congressional delegations, or otherwise 26 state congressional delegations. At that point in time, we would become, assuming that consent, we were able to obtain that consent, there would be then a period of independence, essentially, where we would be negotiating with the federal government many complex matters. What are the continuing rights of Social Security recipients in California to continue to receive Social Security? What about the federal land in California? California gets it. How much does California have to pay for it? California would assume some percentage of the existing federal debt, and so on and so forth. But the point being, there is a way, a lawful way and a peaceful way to separate. And I say lawful and peaceful because we're in a situation right now where if we do nothing, we know how this movie ends. We're in a situation where you already have ICE agents doing everything that the ICE agents are doing, up to and including raiding a Methodist church in Los Angeles today, and arresting a church member who was serving food at a food bank. That's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse. And there are California values. Why CalExit right now? There are California values. They do exist. We all know what they are. And if you look and see what's going on in Washington, the Supreme Court overturned Roe. You now have Republicans in Congress that are calling for a national abortion ban. You have the Supreme Court that's preparing to accept a case that might overturn Obergefell and same-sex marriage. So these values, which are being displayed in Washington right now, thoroughly inconsistent with where we are in California. We've been trying as a nation to secure universal health care for 60 years. And there's one path, and one path only, to universal health care, and that's CalExit. We've been trying to secure common sense gun legislation for 70 years in Washington. Can't get it because of the NRA and other lobbyists. There's one path to common sense gun control, and that is CalExit. One person, one vote. We just saw yesterday federal agents storm the Fulton County election offices and retrieve ballots, paper ballots from 6 years ago now, coming up. And so we've also heard Steve Bannon announce just yesterday that we are going to have ICE agents at every polling location in the midterm elections. So we're not in a situation where it has any opportunity to get any better. So what we do is we lobby Sacramento. We ask for a resolution, a joint resolution of the California General Assembly and the California Senate, calling for an investigation into all peaceful and lawful means of separation, which we already know what they are. Once the resolution, and which the resolution only requires the support of one member of the General Assembly and one senator, that moves forward. And then following that, we have a bill introduced, and that bill would be telling the governor, be giving the governor the authority to call for a blue ribbon commission that would report formally on all peaceful and lawful means of separation, which we already know what they are. So it doesn't take an awful long time to conduct that investigation. It would also look into all of the items that could be accomplished by a sovereign California that can't be accomplished because of Washington interference in anything that we'd be trying to do. Once that bill would be introduced and the Blue Ribbon Commission would be called for, the Blue Ribbon Commission turns its report in. At that point in time, the governor makes a decision, and basically that decision we hope would be to send a negotiating team to Washington to begin lobbying the 26, all 50, but presumably to secure the approval of 26 different state delegations. At that point in time, we become essentially a sovereign entity with that consent of the states, and we move forward into that negotiating process that I talked about before. People want to say, hey, you can't do it. Why would the government give up? Why would the federal government give up $400 billion a year from California? Because if 52 members of the Democratic members of the United States House of Representatives leave all at once, there will never again be a Democratic majority in the United States House of Representatives. But California will be sovereign, and again, we'll be in a much better position. I'll continue on when it's my turn again, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. But I just wanted to make sure that we understand that the process is possible, it is lawful, it is peaceful, and there is incentive on the part of Republicans in Washington, not only to let us go, but there is also a president in the Oval Office who despises California so much so that he won't even go to the Super Bowl. So we're in a position where 10 years ago, this was not possible. 10 years from now, it'll be too late because we'll have a full-blown authoritarian dictatorship. This is the time, and we're the people, and it's time to move forward.
So I live in California, and this year we have a governor's election. And I've seen a lot of people, who I agree with, by the way, saying that for the 2028 presidential election, any Democratic candidate that does not advocate for the abolishing of ICE as part of their platform should not be considered a serious candidate. Well, similarly, I think in this year's California governor's election, any Democratic candidate that does not advocate for the possibility of secession is not a serious candidate. And I mean it. I think this is the time that California, specifically, needs to be seriously considering secession from the Union. And I know, a lot of people are going to say, that's not legal. We already determined that it's not legal for states to secede. We fought an entire civil war about it. Yeah, guess what? It wasn't legal then either. The American Revolution wasn't legal. Most efforts to secede from governments that are tyrannical are not legal. But I think it should be up to the California citizens to vote, to decide whether they want to be ruled by this fascist federal government. And I think anybody who wants to be the governor of the biggest state in the country, and a state that is largely opposed to this federal government, should be seriously discussing the possibility of removing California from that government. In fact, I think Gavin Newsom, the current governor, should be seriously considering it. However, he's too busy running for president of the United States in 2028. So he's not going to advocate for California to secede from a government that he wants to run. But we are now at the point where we should not even be guaranteeing the idea that this government is going to exist in a couple of years. Times are changing. Things are crazy right now. Things are horrible right now. And I think it's only right that these states that do not agree with the federal government, whose populations largely do not agree with the federal government and have never voted for these federal representatives who are doing these things, should be considering forming their own countries. And honestly, I'll tell you right now, the only reason that nobody that I've seen running for California governor right now is seriously talking about this is because they know it would be popular. They know that if they put this on a ballot, there is a good chance that most of the California population votes for it. And they don't want to do it because they don't want a civil war. Well, guess what? We're already in one. It's time we stop pretending that this is just going to go back to normal. It's not going to. And when things don't go back to normal, you need to prepare for what comes next. And I think what should be on the table is seceding from the United States.
California is the greatest country in the world. If we're being honest with each other, California is a blue state held down by red tape. We can't count on the federal government anymore.
California is the greatest country in the world.
So
Awesome.
thank you, JJ. And I just wanted, we want to be about what is happening now. We know that we are so inundated with everything in our everyday lives, not only our personal lives and what we do, but also the I guess storm of hour by hour what is happening in our country and in California, and how California and its influence are affected, and how the influence also affects the rest of the country and the world. So we always want to try to capture what is happening now and relate it to CalExit, because we believe that CalExit pretty much checks the boxes all the way down the list, you all. And that's what we want to talk about tonight and in upcoming live streams. So one thing I wanted to share that happened in the last couple of weeks, and it's just part of everything, all the stuff, all of the things that are really authoritarian, that are fascist driven, that are coming straight from Washington, D.C., and the people that are in power now. And there, of course, we're hearing everything. Elections, ICE, healthcare, war, all of those things. And so a couple of weeks ago, this was on the eve of the tragedy of Alex Preddy, and I had the opportunity to speak with Don Lemon. And you all know about Don Lemon, what happened with him this last weekend when he was here in Los Angeles at the Grammys and doing his job. He's someone that has been in it for years, and for 30 years, world renowned, and still is taken by the authorities and charged now by the DOJ. So if I can, I just wanted to share that, and we will move on.
Democracy Jesus.
It is my strong opinion that we cannot vote our way out of this. Can anyone tell me how we're going to sustain ourselves for 11 more months with the hopes that the authoritarian regime that is in power would even honor the election? Because guess what, guys? Fascists, elections are not really their gig, right? It's not really their thing. It's performative, they're stage theater, but fascists don't leave. They don't leave. So what does that mean for us? Are we going to continue to not realize that it is an us and them? Is it? Are we going to continue to show up with signs and chants when they are still going to shoot us in the face, y'all? To think that we're going to midterm or vote our way out of this and go back to the old rules. They have written new ones, and they are playing by those. We have got to write some as well. And we're sticking to, this used to work. Yes, this worked in history. The MLK of it all, the gay rights of it all, the women's suffrage of it all. Yes, but we did not have fascists holding the keys. That's the difference. These people do not care. They cannot give less of a fuck about anything that we are doing, because they're like, bring it, because they have the license. They are given the permission to do this, to terrorize us. And the treachery, the tyranny is becoming unbearable for just anyone watching, much less people in the street. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
They stole the last election.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Democracy Jesus.
So it really is closer and gets closer and closer than we think to our personal lives, our relationships, whatever industry you may work in or wherever you may live. It is touching us, right? It is reaching into our personal lives, our spaces, and our circles. And what we believe here at CalExit is there are so many things, pretty much everything, right? You guys, that CalExit provides a pretty immediate solution to, and I'm not saying immediate, like in the next day, like once we are sovereign, all of those old fights, that 51-49, just it goes away, you guys. And I know you might think, oh, that sounds a little idealistic. I'm coming from an experience, like many of you, where we have lived in California, and we know the power, the people, the position that we have, and the resources that we have. And there's no reason that we cannot do this. And here's the thing that we keep hearing, and it's understandable, very understandable, and very real. And we always want to be real. People are saying, well, what if California is doing this? What about the rest of the country? We just can't leave them. And I go to this scenario. When we're in the airplane, we have to put our oxygen masks on first, so we will be able to breathe and help the other person beside us or people around us. That is I believe, the heart or one of the tenets, the foundational, fundamental aspects of CalExit that is what we are doing here. Someone has to be first. California has always been first, right? California has always been the winner, not just in the country, but in the world. And we're not saying that from we are better. We're saying that as, look at what we've got. We can do this. CalExit is a right place, right time, right now thing, initiative, campaign, movement, whatever you want to call it. That's why we are so happy and reaching out to people like you guys, and happy that you're joining us tonight, because we need you to help this happen. This is a participation thing, and particularly for Californians. And I've seen some other people on the chat joining. Thank you from other places. Look, this is actually not exclusive at all. This is the most inclusive thing that we could do as a sovereign entity or power, is to do this, and it has never been done before. So please give yourself some grace and think that we have got to do something that has never been done before. And folks like Marcus and JJ have been in the trenches for a while now. So that's why, just kind of a person, that's why I've signed up and come into the kind of the inner sanctum here of CalExit, so we can get this done and reach out to everyone, that like folks that are watching tonight, and we'll make this conversations around your dinner table, and maybe people that you may not have spoke to before at work, things that might come up in a casual conversation. Say, hey, have you heard about CalExit? And just give them the link to the video. That's what we're hoping to establish with these segments and the shows that we're doing every week. So, and what that means, like all of the things that I was mentioning in the video, anything from the elections to ICE and everything that is swirling about, and all of the fascist, authoritarian horrors, right, that we face every day. And so with that, we know that the presence of ICE, the uptick, I guess, that's kind of I would say more of an explosion of every single progressive city, right? And then places around the country that are seeing more of that in their streets. So we really wanted to take a few minutes tonight and tackle that issue, that symptom of the bigger problem or disease, right? Is the what Border Patrol is doing, what ICE is doing very unlawfully, very unethically, very, very dangerously and criminally. And so I wanted to turn it back over to JJ and or Marcus and let them really explain why ICE would end practically tomorrow with a sovereign California.
JJ, pound away, brother.
All right. I just want to say, first of all, for the people who wonder if this is possible or not, the state of New Hampshire has already introduced the exact same resolution that we intend to introduce in the California legislature. So it's for those who think it can't happen, it's already happened. Now, why New Hampshire thinks that they could function effectively as an independent nation, I don't know. But California being the fourth largest economy in the world, I noticed questions in the chat about military capacity and what have you. Let me assure you that the very first phone call that would come in to the George Washington of a sovereign California would be from NATO. NATO is not going to at all be content with having the fourth largest economy in the world walk away from that defense pact. So would we be allied with NATO? Absolutely. Could we be allied with Canada and Mexico independently? Absolutely. As a sovereign nation, we'll be able to enter into the same trade agreements that the United States enters into with any other nation. We'll be able to enter into the same defense pact that the United States possesses with any other nation. This is a circumstance where, again, I continue to say, because it's the most important aspect, you see what this government has done up to today. And there is no reason, absolutely no reason, to expect that they would do anything except go farther. We have more to worry about from the government that we're a part of now than we would a government after we left, that same government after we left. So I just wanted to again touch on the fact that it's not only possible, it's already being done. The process has already started in New Hampshire. We would be introducing the exact same resolution. They basically copied the resolution that we prepared for all practical purposes, and it just as it can be done there, it can be done here.
If you have any questions, ask them. JJ and I are experts, and JJ especially can ask. So ask tough questions. We have all the answers. And I just need to point out, JJ really is an expert. I want to show that again. So please ask those tough questions, but also just recognize that when we're talking about being able to pull this off, I have been doing this for about 15 years. And JJ showed up a couple months ago, and he was already there. Look at his background. He's worked for FEMA. He's worked for the feds. He's done a speechwriter. He teaches. He's at the graduate school. We have a professional in politics who's basically telling you this can be done. Yes, it's legal. And yes, we can work through the system. And he's right. Just to cover a couple basics, I want to do this. So just to cover a couple basics, as JJ was pointing out, independence is legal. Texas versus White says you can leave with consent of the states. Here's the question that relates to the military and to any other questions you guys have. I want to point this out. Half of all Republicans in America said last year, basically, that none of you watching this are fellow Americans. No, that's not an exaggeration. Nobody contradicted it. Yes, LA Times did a survey. Half of all Republicans think none of you are fellow Americans. 48% right there. 67% of all Republicans, almost 70%, say California is nothing but a net negative. 83% of Republicans across America say they'll never move here. And a majority of your fellow Americans believe that Texas and Florida better represents their values. All we got to do is get to Congress and ask, and they'll let us go. That's basically the big secret. They hate us. We can get the votes. And the only thing that we need to do to make that happen is these couple simple steps that JJ said. We're going to lobby Sacramento to push a joint resolution. JJ has already written the resolution. We have already shown it to politicians. They are already impressed. That will be global news. The world's fourth largest economy saying in a resolution, we believe it's worthwhile to investigate sovereignty, will become global news. We didn't say leave. We didn't say it's a good idea. What we said is a good idea to investigate this. That will kick things up to the next level. We can then propose for the blue ribbon panel to happen, or more likely, the governor's going to demand the investigation get moved up to within 1 month. After that, the public demands a special election like Prop 50, which took 2.5 months. And so this is the key thing. We're talking about independence within basically 3 to 5 months. And what we need you to do is this. Sign up now. If you go on the YouTube channel that you're watching this and you click the description in the bottom, it will say sign up and there will be a link to a Google form. You sign up, we're going to get you the list of 22 politicians out of 120 that our DC Insider has already targeted. These are the most easiest susceptible politicians to back this up. JJ's looked through their backgrounds, their history, their education, and he's figured out people who are in safe districts and have already taken a stance similar to what we're talking about. We have targeted people. We have all the emails for them. We have all the phone calls. We have a phone call script for you. We have an email script for you.
Toolkit.
And when we have the resolution ready. You basically almost don't have to do anything, and the politicians almost don't have to do anything. We just need you to do a little bit of work, and we can pull this together. Sign up. Josh, back to you.
Exactly. Sign up. I mean, we're basically giving you a toolkit, right? That's going to be available when you reach out to us and we reach back out to you, just giving you the tools, giving you the equipment, all the work, right? We've done all the work, not only for you, but also our representatives that we were really trying to get support from at the state level. And again, okay, coming in, because I feel like the folks that are watching may be like me. They're kind of new to this and they're wondering how, what, when, where, how, why, all of those things. And what I had to realize was that all of the things that we are trying, ICE being the primary example, like we are trying to get ICE out of LA, ICE out of ICE out of everywhere, California and everywhere else, ICE out. And I had to realize you guys, is that they don't have to, nor will they leave us. Therefore, we have to leave them. And meaning the federal government and all of the tyranny and the tragedy, right? And so that helped me understand that there's something that, again, it's never been done before, and we have to really believe, because we are California, and look at our history and our present and our future, and that we are ready to do this. There's nothing really holding us back. And I as we were mentioning too, everything that was coming down, everything that ticks down in the news, and I wanted to introduce my friend Rachel, who I worked with for the last year, and we have done a lot of grassroots organization and work around election integrity, the free and fair elections atmosphere and arena. And because we are focusing on what ICE is doing and what effect it's having on us every single hour, I wanted to introduce Rachel and have her explain her take on how ICE is not just about what's happening in the streets at the detention centers.
Thank you, Josh. And hey, everyone. I'm glad everyone is here. So yeah, I mean, we talk about how Josh and I always say that we can't play by the old anymore. We have to use a different paradigm, because they're not, and they look what they've done. But one of the things we can see is where history repeats itself. And what we're seeing is ICE are the new brown shirts. They're using as their militia. They're using them to terrorize, harass, and kill U.S. citizens and people who have the right to be here. No one should be treated as illegal. People are here because they need help, and that's who we're supposed to be. As they say, we used to be the quote-unquote beacon on the hill, and now California has the opportunity to be the beacon on the beach, right? A place that everyone is welcome, can feel safe. But more importantly, you're seeing now ICE is just a symptom of the bigger issue, but you're seeing how they're being used. And one of the things I was taught in con law was that one of the ideals in our Constitution is one person, one vote. Has that ever been a reality? Ever? Well, I think we all know that. No. How could it be with college? How could it be when we have either gerrymandering, voter suppression, all types, poll tax, everything that they've used for over 67 years? And now, as Josh and I, with others uncovered, saw voter subversion, that once you voted, they were able to change your vote after the fact. And we can certainly share that information another time if anybody wants to see that. The point is now we're hearing ICE to quote unquote protect the elections. They're bringing in DOJ and ICE as their bodyguards, if you will. And we're seeing the same patterns repeat. This is what they've been waiting for. They're not even the fact anymore. It's very important that we make sure our representatives, our state representatives, understand that this is an urgent matter, that we cannot wait. This is the time. We have all the tools, we have the people, we know what to do, and we need everybody's help. So please sign up. And I saw somebody's comment about Google. I don't want to use Google either. Right now, our website is in transition. So from going forward, this Google Sheet is a temporary fix, but we do have our own website that will be going up. You can also send emails to volunteer@calexit.now. That's our Proton account. Guess what? That's a Swiss company, and they're outside the jurisdiction of these crazy mofos. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
So I'm going to answer some of these questions, and then I'm going to go to JJ. Yes, I can stop the Chiron, Josh, whenever you're ready. Let me address these really quick, and then I'm going to go to JJ.
Sure.
So what if Trump cheats on the negotiation? We don't think that will happen for this reason. As JJ will routinely say, Donald Trump would be able to tell the Republicans, I fixed elections for you for the rest of time. You'll always have easy elections going forward because I got rid of California. That would be a epitome of a archetypal dream for the Republicans. So we think that when that option is presented, they're just going to grab it. He's not going to want to hold up something that's going to make him appear to be a god. As I remind many people, he doesn't do it now, but before he wanted to overturn abortion, and then it was done for that month after Roe v. Wade was overturned, he was saying, I'm your savior. I'm the only one who could get it done. So we're going to give him the ability to claim a God complex. I got rid of evil, nasty California. Elections are easy going for you. He'll want that. The Google form, yes, sorry about that. That's a temporary thing as we're reformatting the webpage. To the question of how to stop ICE, you can't stop ICE unless you're independent. I was already explaining this to somebody. There's articles out there called Soft Secession, and there's a lot of people sending emails on be educated about your rights and be more vocal. None of that will stop ICE. The only thing that would is if state officials are actually going to start arresting them. Guess what? Nobody's doing it. Why? Because they could be charged with insurrection. So the only way, as JJ says, to get rid of ICE is to become independent. Would we need to change the Constitution for California to become independent? I don't personally think so, but JJ thinks we probably would. And what would probably happen is we probably would do a revision of the Constitution just because you're making a new nation. What would being a resident of an independent California look like? Well, simply put, your taxes would be lowered. There wouldn't be destroyed schools, roads. We'd have the best of everything. Remember the 1970s, the Golden State era? We had the best roads, the best universities, the cheapest universities, the best schools, the best of everything. The Golden State era ended when the donor state period started. We would go back to the period that everybody said was the greatest time in California history. And also, I don't think Trump will attack us for doing this. He can't. We're going to legislators, and they'll be proposing it. They're already threatening California legislators. They don't care. Additionally, if you sign the resolution, the initiative, that's private information. He doesn't have access to that. JJ, then we go to Josh.
Yeah, Marcus, I want to touch back on the Constitution issue for a second. The answer is categorically yes, there would be a new Constitution. And the reason for that is we're currently operating under a Constitution that was crafted in 1787 by old white men who owned property and no one else. There was no one else in the room. Their wives couldn't even come into Constitution Hall. They were not permitted in the building. This is a situation where California, because what we're promoting is California values, there would be a California Constitution that would reflect California values. Yes, Roe would be codified. Yes, many things that should have been in the Constitution of the United States will be in the Constitution of the sovereign nation of California. So we definitely would recraft a new Constitution, and in our Constitution Hall would be every representative group that makes up California, not one group trying to apply its values and its rights to everyone else.
All right. I know there's some more questions, but we're going to go to Josh now real quick. We will keep up with the questions in a minute, but we're going to go to Josh now at this moment.
And I again, all of these things are hitting home with me, even though I've heard them before. That it's just kind of the receipts here, the logic and the expertise and experience behind JJ and Marcus, because they are coming from similar spaces, but different levels of that. And so I am always anxious to hear how they come at questions. And there's so many in the chat that I don't want to take a lot of time here. But we wanted to go ahead. Let's go ahead with some more questions, and then we can circle back with our next steps, what we are excited to get you guys involved with, and so that you can leave with some CalExit.
Okay, here are the next questions. I'll take a quick stab, and then we're going to go to JJ. I always defer to JJ. One of the questions was, how would the justice system be different in the future? What would the formation of the California government be, and would big companies stay? We would probably have a reformation of the Constitution. That typically happens when making new countries. The other thing that I like to tell people is, when politicians can't blame the federal government, and when all decisions are decided in Sacramento, you can expect a level of accountability you've never seen with politicians ever before. I work in state government. They'll always blame the feds. Any governor candidate who gets in a tough spot will go, oh, my hand's tied with red tape. They won't be able to do that anymore. It's easier to get to Sacramento than DC. You'll be able to hold them to account. So you can expect a lot of reformations on systems. The other thing is, we'll be independent from American influence. Somebody was talking about cops killing minorities. Well, part of the reason BLM was not able to get qualified immunity removed in California law was because the national Democrats, under the control of the National Police Officers Association, shut that down. When we're independent, we can have the bad influences from America gone. Our government may need to change, but I'd also point out to you that the last 3 governors of California travel around the world, sign treaties with foreign countries, trade deals with foreign countries, and have referred to California as a nation state. So we kind of already operate that way. As far as big companies staying, well, if you go to any business and you ask them, how would you like to have 50% of your bureaucracy removed? If we're independent, you don't need to do federal regulations anymore. That's a 50% reduction in regulation. Additionally, how would you like to have your business income taxes lowered? Everybody says, I would move to California. You would have a boom in California. Additionally, if companies can just go to Sacramento to get a compliance and don't have to go to Sacramento and the feds, they also win. So this is a boom for business. JJ.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Marcus. I think that in terms of the structure of the justice system, the structure of the government, these are all matters that would be taken up at the California Constitutional Convention. And I go back to people who say, oh, it's the Constitutional Convention, blah, 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 blah. You have to understand something, that the Koch brothers, when they formed the Koch Political Institute about 60 years ago, their goal was to secure control of enough state legislatures to call for a new constitutional convention, because the Constitution that we have right now wasn't benefiting old white men who own property enough. If you imagine what kind of constitution we would end up with if we were still a part of the United States and the Koch brothers had been successful, and in 2012, they were two state legislatures away from calling for a new constitutional convention. And if Republicans gained control, again, of that number of state legislatures anytime while we're still a member of the United States of America, there would be a new constitution. And instead of having a constitution that occurred, that was crafted in 1787, we would have a constitution crafted by people who were more right-wing, farther to the right, more conservative, more reactionary than the people who drafted the Constitution we're operating under right now. So all of the things that people are concerned about in terms of how would the government look, how would big companies stay, what are the benefits, what are the burdens, what are the rights and responsibilities of the citizens, those are all to be worked out. But because of who we are and what we are in California, we would end up with a constitution that respected the rights of all. There is one, we talk in the United States about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. For who? We talk about land of the free and the home of the brave while people are getting shot in the face on city streets. You know, we can't continue to exist under this current Constitution. We can't continue to exist as part of the United States of America, because guess what? We're not the United States of America. We're the untied states of America. That's who we are. We are 51-49, 49-51 with a government that is intent on controlling fake elections. Who is Donald Trump's idol? His idol is Vladimir Putin. Have you seen the results of elections in Russia recently? That will be the result of elections in the United States, and that's why we need to get the hell out of here.
Okay. So some of the other questions were, you're going to love this, JJ, because this is your thing. Sorry, give me a second. Voting. So healthcare for all, voting rights codified, common sense gun laws. Let me throw in a couple other things. Codifying Roe v. Wade, making sure that they can't attack transgender people. JJ, what did you say about gun laws, codifying voting laws, codifying a woman's right to choose, making sure they can't attack LGBTQ people, protecting the undocumented? What's your opinion about how all those things can happen related to California sovereignty?
Right now, I go back to the issue of voting. How do you accomplish anything when the votes of 15 million Californians don't count? And I use this example all the time. In the 2016 presidential election, roughly 15 million Californians cast a ballot in that presidential election. Now, they all didn't cast a ballot for the same person. But if they did, if all 15 million Californians had voted for Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump is still the president of the United States. And instead of losing by 3 million votes, he loses by 10 million votes. Californians' votes, gosh, forget about one person, one vote. 15 million Californians couldn't change the outcome of a presidential election. The Republicans have been trying for 50 years to figure out how to win the presidential election without ever winning the popular vote. And whether or not Donald Trump won the popular vote this time, we may never know. But the bottom line is they have figured out how to win the presidency without ever winning the popular vote. And what that does is it reduces the votes of 15 million electors in the fourth largest economy in the world to zero. It's not one person, one vote. It's 15 million votes that don't matter. And yes, all of this will be codified. Universal health care, like I said, we've been trying for 50 years. You know, common sense gun legislation, we've been trying for 50, 60, 70 years. Can't do it. And we all want to blame Washington. Well, now we have a chance not to blame Washington anymore. Now we have a chance to say, you couldn't do it. We will. So the pathway, there's one pathway, like I said, one pathway to universal health care. That's a sovereign California. One pathway to common sense gun legislation. That's a sovereign California. One pathway to codification of Roe, codification of voting rights, a fair criminal justice system, a fair tax scheme. And when we stop building roads and bridges in Alabama for people who hate us, when we stop keeping the water clean in Arkansas for people who hate us, we can use the $400 billion that we don't send to Washington every year to accomplish everything that would be necessary to recreate the California that Marcus talked about before.
I want to make sure that's drilled in for everybody. This is something that JJ says all the time. I'm going to pull you off for just a second because I want people to see my eyes. You cannot have single-payer health care being part of America. You will never have common sense gun regulation being part of America. The Ninth Circuit Court has struck down almost every gun regulation we have. The federal government is totally against single-payer health care. Look, Obama was the last competent president, and even he sided with the insurance companies and did not get a single-payer health care. You're never going to get a woman's right to be choose being protected. The Republicans are going to push for a national abortion ban. And you're never going to be able to prevent LGBTQ people and trans people from being attacked because somebody got some new idea. We're never really going to have good schools because we don't have the money, because we're a donor state of $80 billion to 35 people. We're never really going to have good roads because we're a donor state. So if you want healthcare, if you want common sense gun laws, if you want a woman's right to choose, if you want no more tax on LGBTQ, if you want no more tax on trans people, if you want good schools, if you want good roads, if you want to not be part of the madness, there's only one way to achieve that. And that's a sovereign California. Look, I went to the single payer healthcare meeting last night. And they're like, we're going to go and get up into Sacramento and we're going to get everybody to back single payer healthcare by threatening to primary them. And I go, how are you going to pay for it? And they go, oh, don't worry about it. They're going to raise taxes on you. And then here's the thing they didn't explain to anybody when they got all these people to back single payer healthcare. You still have to ask Donald Trump for permission to make it happen. So even if you pass that bill, you're still stuck by the federal rules. There's no way out. Let's go to a few more questions. These were the next round of questions. I'll take a shot and then we'll go to JJ. We already covered the justice system. I think there would have to be reforms. Look, when you look at Singapore and you look at Israel, I'm not talking politics, but whenever you have a group of people form a new nation, they have the stage where they have to go and kind of attempt to right all the wrongs. You can't really get a body politic excited about forming a new nation and saying, yeah, and we're going to drag all the same old garbage into that. So there will have to be some reform. The government probably too, but like I said, California already operates as a nation. Big companies won't leave because their taxes are going to go down, the regulation is going to go down, and the responsiveness from government is going to go up. Additionally, California loses billions of dollars being tied to America. People around the world will not buy our technology products, software, laptops, smartphones, because they feel the American government will spy on them. So we lose billions just being associated. Secondly, whenever America wants to invade a country like Venezuela or Iraq, we are the #1 destination for foreign investment, foreign students, and foreign vacationers. That all goes away when America does stupid stuff. So we lose. And by the way, when Donald Trump does a trade war with China and when Joseph Biden continues that trade war, we lose because we're dramatically dependent on international trade. So as far as business goes, expect a gigantic boom. As far as population control after we separate, California lost a congressional seat. We could afford to have a couple million people move back and we'd be just fine. Social Security, as long as you are an American citizen, and our plan is for you to have dual American and California citizenship, they cannot take away your Social Security check. By law, they have to send it to you. And if they did, we're already independent and we could cover it with an additional $100 to $400 billion. As far as military bases, that's up to negotiation. One option is that America could have their bases, but they would pay us. There's a tiny country called Djibouti. America pays them $350 million a year for a tiny spot of land. We'd be getting somewhere on the order of $5 billion in payment. Or we could negotiate for them to leave. Finally, housing, yes. We're not going to address the homeless crisis unless we're independent. Why? Federal regulations, and we can't stop people from being shipped here from other states. So we fix homelessness, guess what? New York, Texas, Iowa ships more homeless here. We had 50% of the homeless because we made that? No, because we had problems affording our own people, and then they shipped more here. So we could actually limit who gets to come in and take care of benefits, and benefits would go up for the first time ever. Additionally, you're looking at water, there'd have to be some reform. It'd be one of those issues like the genocide against the indigenous and racism against Black people that would have to be addressed before we move forward. JJ.
I just want to add, too, that for the folks that are concerned about water, there are separatist movements that are forming, excuse me, in Oregon and Washington already. And there have been people who suggested to me, why don't you get together with Oregon and Washington? Well, somebody's got to get the ball rolling. Once we get the ball rolling, then we can do whatever we want to from that perspective. And that would make the water issue a moot point. Social Security you've covered. On the housing issue, I just want to add that when you retrieve $400 billion that we're not paying, not just once, but every year. So in 5 years, that's $2 trillion not going to Washington, that stays in California. And it would likely be our tax base would likely be even higher at that point. We'd be even producing more revenue. So we could very, very, very easily construct a plan, which we've already discussed internally, about the construction of hundreds of thousands of low and middle income houses. And that would in part handle our existing crisis and also deal with the influx of maybe not 2 million, maybe 4, 5, 6, 8 million people in other parts of the country who see the new California Constitution and say, you know what? Those are my values. That is where I need to be. And they'll bring themselves, their families, their businesses to California. And again, we'll be recreating not the American dream, because guess what? The American dream is a nightmare, if anything at all. We'll be recreating the California dream. You can't live the California dream right now because you don't know when you're going to get pulled over, even as an American citizen, and shot in the face. We need to recreate the California dream. We need to go back to that golden era and recreate that, and we can do that with all of these circumstances resolved.
All right, we're going to go to the most important issue right now. Please ask some tough questions, but we want to talk about ICE. ICE has been particularly difficult and troubling for everyone here in California. And some questions are like, how do you get rid of ICE? The thing, and I was talking to guys like, why can't you just ban ICE? Do you remember when they asked Chuck Schumer about getting rid of ICE? And when they asked Cory Booker, Schumer looked the other way and totally ignored whoever was asking. And then Cory Booker went on TV and said, the problem with ICE is more training. That's after 2 people were murdered. So the Democrats are not going to do anything about ICE. Why? If they allow federal investigations of federal officers, then it's going to come back on them later. And why aren't the states doing it? Because they know you're just going to, you arrest a federal officer, a federal court's going to make that go to a federal court. So, Josh, you have any comments on this? Or JJ, could you talk about how ICE is bad and this is the only option?
No, I think Josh is back on. Let's go to him first.
Tell us, brother.
So it's a symptom. It's probably the most painful and loudest symptom of the condition, the disease, the virus. But it is the one that is affecting, I think, all of us on a daily basis, and we're just seeing it. We're seeing it, and very sadly, as is in the playbook, a page out of the playbook of authoritarianism and fascism is to make us numb to that, to make that normalized. And so we just don't have the time, and we don't really have the time for anything. The luxury of time and thinking that we can go by the old rules when they are writing new ones every single moment. And so guess what? CalExit is a pretty new rule. And it is something that will not only be historic, but also a template for other states, even, of course, inspiring other countries that this can be done. And we have the power right now, really on the, the 4th or 5th of February, we have that power in our hands right now. The right now of CalExit is what is just so powerful. And I've been in a lot of rooms. I say this a lot. I've been in a lot of rooms, and I'm sure much of you have. If you've been in this grassroots space or organizing space, especially in the last year, there's been a lot of lanes, and they're all valid and they're all good. But I have yet to find a movement, a campaign that has this much riz, if you will, this much stamina and artillery and all of the things in a figurative sense that we can make this happen. We have the goods, we have the stuff to do this right now, because we just don't have the time. JJ has said before, and Marcus has said before, like maybe we couldn't do this 10 years ago, and we surely can't do it 10 years from now. Now is the time. And so how do we do that? Well, we are really, and it's kind of a campaign within this movement that this is, I call it CalExit Express, kind of hard to say, but that's what we're doing. We are building this new website platform, and just want you to sign up, and we will help you. We will do the rest. We just want to, if you can consider CalExit and ask yourself what you can do is, can you make phone calls? Can you send emails with a template or phone calls with a script? Or are you someone that is in proximity or willing to go to be on the ground in Sacramento? Those things are happening right now, and they're powerful, and we have the position, and now we just need you, the people, to make this happen. So some other exciting things that we also want to let you know that are happening. We are doing this kind of not a rebrand, but it is a fresh branding of what we are saying out loud to folks like you and people that are tuning in. We are building a brand new social media platform and accounts. So things that can be shared, like the video that we shared earlier. People are talking about that. This is not really a hard sell in a sense, because people are already saying CalExit. Because what's our solution? What can we do here? So with that, we're going to make all of those things available to you. We have created some new branding, some new assets, because we know that this is a California thing, right? As California goes, so does the nation, so does the world. And I am so proud to have moved here 17 years ago and call myself a Californian, just because of what we have and who we are and what we represent. So with that kind of initiative, that kind of mindset, we've created some ideas for rebranding, things that folks can share that we'll make available, because this is no nonsense. This is straightforward, and this is very Californian. From what I talk about or what I hear for friends and neighbors and people in our circles here in California, this is the sentiment, and we want to make it fresh and new and serious and loud, because this is big. We have to let this be big, and let California be big, because it is. So I want to share that with you guys, and we will probably be tying up our questions if there's anything else. We don't want to miss anything, but we do want to respect your time, and we do want to ask you back for our next session next week, where we'll be talking about some other things. So let's share that, and we will pop back in. Sorry, Mark, can you take that? Sorry, let's start it again. My bad. Go ahead. So leave us some comments. We want to know. Leave us some comments in the chat there, because we are really developing this really quickly, and we'll make those things available. And we'll be sharing them on our own platforms. And we just want you to like and share and do all the stuff, because this can move fast, and it is something that we are pushing. Not in coming months, in coming days and weeks, and we are planning to do some work at the Capitol in Sacramento in the coming probably 10 or 14 days, and we'll be letting you know what's happening there. But this is fast, and we do not have all the time in the world. Time is not a luxury, but that is why we're asking you to sign up. I think we've got our information. I hope I've got the right one here. That that if you can sign up, the link is in the chat, and it will just take you to a really simple Google form, and we will do the rest. We will reach back out to you and tell you what the next steps are about how you can be involved basically tomorrow in this solution that is CalExit.
Hey, Josh, if I could add just one more thing. The question before came up about ICE and what do we do about ICE? We didn't give that group of people their name. The people in Washington gave that group their name. And I'm sure that in Nicaragua, they didn't call them death squads in the government offices, but the people knew what they were. And in Russia, dissidents are imprisoned, poisoned, or back their way out of ninth floor windows. It happens all the time. Right now, there are over 110,000 undocumented that are already in ICE detention facilities. Over 110,000. And that's just the beginning. These people are not ICE. They are Donald Trump's personal police force. They are Donald Trump's personal death squad. 12 people have been shot by ICE since September. 20 plus have died in confinement since September. Where does it end? How does it end? Stop calling them ICE. They are a fucking death squad. They've been given a mission. They're carrying it out. And we're the only ones that can stop them. Thank you.
All right. We have Rachel wanted to say something before we go.
Yeah. And thank you for that, JJ. I mean, that's kind of the spirit of where I'm going. I mean, there are some original sins that we've never addressed. Of course, what were done to the Native Americans, slavery, and a lot of that is tied into really punishing or dealing with the Confederacy, which has been allowed to live in our country, which we've had disputes about the Confederate flag being flown. And the fact that even going back to the pardoning of Nixon, all this was because of the unfair and the basically the white male supremacy that keeping those in power in place. And we have a chance to undo that. We have a chance to say no more, not on our fucking watch, and it's time to go. We can have that bullshit, or we can say, let's build the society that is what we were supposed to be. We can actually live up to it.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I'm going to wrap us up. We'll be out of here in 60 seconds. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We need you to sign up on the Google form. It's in the description of the video. Sign up. We'll send you some links. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a list of 22 elected officials that we have. You're going to get emails and phone numbers for all 22. You're going to get an email script and a call script. You just go right through that. Katie, TT, Rick C have already done it. Super easy to do. Go to descriptions, sign up. We'll give you all the information. Once we get a hold of a legislator, we already have the resolution. So you'll get the names, you'll get the phone numbers, you'll get the emails, you'll get the scripts. This was just to motivate you. Sign up, then we can hand that to you. We're going to leave it there. I know there was some more questions. Email me or email us at volunteer@calexit.now. I'll email you back a personal response. Plus, we'll handle those at the next meeting. We are planning on having mobilized next Tuesday, next Wednesday. Josh, final comment, sir.
So again, we this is an us thing. This is not spectator sport. This is a participatory thing, and that you're here tonight. We know that's already half the battle just getting here. Make this a normal conversation, you all, in your circles, because as we go about our lives in the environment, this atmosphere, it is important that we share the solution that we can do, we can implement. We have, the power, the position, and the people, which is what democracy is. We have that power in our hands as California. Thank you guys for joining us tonight.
We'll leave it there.
You.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank everybody for being here. Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody on the team, stay here. Stay with me for a second. I'm just going to end the stream. Thank you all.